Hey everybody, this is Chris introducing our last project, our final project. And this is an opportunity for you to kind of pick your subject, pick your favorite medium that we've been using, and put it all together to do your best work. One of the things we want to keep in mind is we want to have a multi-step process here, and you can read that in Canvas, as far as planning, researching, doing thumbnails, and doing finals. All in all, it's you should be doing probably 3 hours of preparing and 6 hours of drawing on your final project. So what I want to do is take a look at some professional center of the target examples, and then take a look at some student examples on this project to see what we can learn. So let's start off with this. This is a sketch by Thomas Schaller. As you can kind of see, it's from his sketchbook, which isn't normally what we'd have for a final project, but I think the level of Thomas Schaller's sketches is probably higher than the level of our final project. So lots of good things going on in this one here. Full range of value, large white areas near large dark areas, giving us high contrast. Some areas with more detail, other areas with less detail and less contrast. It's all kind of coming together nicely here. The rest of these, I think, show something interesting to me. And in here, we've got kind of a combination of something that's really rendered, but also we can see some expression in the strokes of the pencil. So, a few nice things coming together here. This is one of my favorite artists I've found on Pinterest, and man, does he or she do really good work. And the perspective is just nailed, and you can tell they're using all their guidelines. You can see all the construction lines, but it adds a style to these drawings. And then the draftsmanship with the application of graphite is just top notch. So we see a few from this artist. Really fantastic drawings. Here's another one that's in that same category, of which I'd say is really high quality, exacting, considered draftsmanship. And that's really one of the main things we're working on in this class, is to go from I don't know really how to use a pencil to get enough practice where you're considering and being thoughtful about how you're using your pencil or charcoal or pen. One of the things you might notice here is that the lines, the stroke of the pencil coincide with contour lines, and so they help us really describe the three-dimensional form. Also, really great attention to values. This is almost photorealistic, I think, in its approach. I'm guessing this is a pretty big size work, so the artist could get in there and really detail this out. And so I'd call this notable for sort of its photorealism, but that doesn't have to be the style we're looking for. This isn't photorealistic at all, but it's got a really nice drawing style. We've got full range of value going on. On the top one, we've got cast shadows with reflected light in there. But again, we notice that the direction of strokes coincides with the contour of the subject. And so it really is informative dimensionally, both with value and contour. Here's another one that's, again, highly rendered, but there's a little more expression going on here than the previous pair of boots example. You can see it's quite large. This is at least a 18 by 24 pad, but it might even be bigger than that. And that allows you, when you draw that big, to get in and get the level of detail that makes this interesting. Now, this second and last group, I think we see a lot more expression, but it's considered, it's not random, and it's reflective of the subject, right? So hopefully the expression of the mark making reinforces the artistic intent with this subject, and I feel it does here. Here's some more along the lines of both high quality and considered expressive lines, both contour and then value areas. Here we have kind of almost a variety pack of mark making, lots of different things going on here, but I think collectively it holds together. And a lot of that mark making helps reinforce contour, but also sets kind of an attitude for the subject. Again, some nice work, and let's zoom in if we can here. So this is probably pretty large to be able to get in here and do this level of detail. But as you get in, you can kind of see how the mark making helps with the contour, gives us the value, and helps describe that subject. Now, these last ones are just examples of thumbnails. These are by Ian McHugh, really high-level artist. So his thumbnails are probably higher level than your average thumbnails, but doing a thumbnail is part of this assignment. So what a thumbnail means is we're making things small purposely so that we can't get over involved in the detail. But we can still work on compositional design and value structure. So we're still deciding where the lights, mediums, and darks go and how that composition fits into our page. And making those decisions before doing your final artwork is really important and allows you to be more expressive and to really get in the flow of creating the art. So do the analytical stuff up front and then you get to the artistic stuff. So these are some examples that I think are really center of the target, really high level. So we may not be hitting that level in this class, but I think it's something to reach for. Now let's take a look at some student work. So here is student work from this class. It's pretty nice when we look at this compared to some of those previous ones. And this is what I call just, still life in not photorealistic, but probably doing as realistic as this artist can muster. And so I'd say this is a really, really top of the group example for a final project. It looks like it took hours and hours, as your final should. Here's another example, different style. So here we're in technical pens and a little bit of watercolor. And you can see it's more story driven. It's got a subject that the artist is trying to tell a story around. Another nice work. Here's a bit of a mixed media. So here we've got ink, we've got pastel, we've got graphite, we've got gel pen. And I think it holds together pretty well. And it shows a lot of the stuff that we've been working on. This one I was very pleased to see. This student actually struggled in almost all the assignments dramatically. But the student kind of brought it together. This isn't necessarily the best drawing, but it's very meaningful. It's got a lot of symbolism in it and a lot of personal meaning to the artist. And that often draws the best out of an artist. So being able to think along the lines of story and symbol and meaning, you're able, I think, to really engage more than normal. Here's just a really great pen drawing. So these look like technical pens with maybe a little marker, I'm not too sure. Nicely executed. Lots of interesting textures going on in there. This is a series of 3, and I welcome you to do more than one drawing. So these drawings individually aren't super complex, but as a triptych, they're interesting. So looks like charcoal and white pastel. Nice work. Now we're moving on to some ones that are kind of middle of the pack, okay, I'd say. And this is a nice drawing. It's really going hard after practicing 1-point perspective, and I think for the most part fairly successfully. Like, if this was your first 1-point perspective assignment, this would really be very difficult for beginning students. I think my biggest rub with it is it's just not visually interesting. Like, I'm proud of the student for nailing the perspective, but there's not a lot going in there that I think is engaging or compelling. This is, I think, actually a pretty interesting subject. So we're doing a triptych here, meaning 3 works that form a whole, and they're kind of different crops and zooms on a sculpture. And I like the intent. It's just not awesome. It's pretty good. It's not terrible. It looks, anatomy-wise, like it needs a little bit more study, some shape and proportion. Some of the lighting's good, some of the lighting is less so. So again, not bad, not awesome, just kind of okay. This is one of the artists try to do 3, and I think the biggest problem is this artist chose vehicles, which are, in my mind, the second hardest thing to draw after people. So they're just super challenging for beginning artists. And so I just wouldn't recommend trying to do vehicles when you're just learning to draw. So save it for later. This one, the fish look okay. Everything else is, I'm not too sure. And it just doesn't look like the artist was really invested in hours and hours of work on this. It's fairly simply executed, and it feels like we didn't really get to the fish. We just spent a lot of time getting the background put in with value. This is on the other end of the spectrum. It's so ambitious that I feel like no one part looks awesome. Like, I applaud the ambition in this, but it's probably more than a student can do in 6 hours. This is probably a 10 or 15 hour drawing, so it's just hard to do it well. But I love what they're going after. I love what they're attempting to do. And most of my examples, the students did, okay to good. It was hard to find something that wasn't that good. And I'm using this example for a couple reasons. It's really small and low resolution. Let's zoom in and maybe even a little bit more. And it's just, the photo's bad of the artwork. But also, this doesn't look like 6 hours worth of work. It looks like 1 to 2 hours worth of work. Part of that is the size. So not only is it low resolution, but it's probably only 6 to 8 inches by 6 to 8 inches. So it really should be bigger to give the artist more opportunity to do good work. So use your sheet of paper, use it fully. That'll give you a lot more opportunity. So it's not like it's drawn terribly. It's just subject's not compelling. It seems too small and it seems too fast. And the photos, not very good. So let's spend our planning time. This isn't something to rush. This should be, as I think I mentioned, 9 hours or so. 3 hours of planning, research, thumbnailing, 6 hours of drawing. So spend that time trying to think of something that you find interesting, something that you find compelling, and that the media expression is something that you want to explore a little further. All right, good luck. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.